Hold on 1 second. Okay, hello, we're live now.
I was reading the chat, saying hi to people.
Yeah, he was saying hello to everybody, and I'm like, I don't think they can hear you. Hi, everyone. So today we're talking about Mary Tudor. She was next. No, she wasn't actually. Edward was her brother after Henry VIII died. So do you want to start off?
Mary was the child of Catherine of Aragon and Henry Tudor, Henry VIII. She was born in 1516, and she was born in a very prestigious family. Both sides of her family, royalty. Her mother came from Spain, or Castile and Aragon. Her parents were. So it was a very prestigious marriage. And when Mary was young, her mother made her very proud to be Spanish, to be a Spaniard. And also Catholicism was very staunched into Mary as she was little. She was taught Latin. She spoke many different languages and stuff like that. And her father adored her. Her parents adored her because for the first, I believe, how many years? 16 years they were married, Henry and Catherine.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. For the first 16 years, Mary was everybody adored her. Everybody adored her. So she had a lot of good times in her early years up until the divorce of her parents. And that's when her things get rough for Mary. But before that, everything was just you couldn't ask for a better life. And Mary's her father, what did he call her? Mary is the pearl of my world, he used to say.
Yeah, and I think she was quite a precocious child. There was a French delegation visiting, and she did a performance on the harpsichord. Which a 4-year-old.
Was that when she was married to the? Oh no, that was after, because she was at 2 years old. She was married to the Dauphin of France.
Well, betrothed.
I'm sorry. Yeah, yes, betrothed.
Yeah, and that quickly changed, but which was a good thing actually. But because she was so accomplished, Henry did dote on her, and not only that, they said she never cried. She wasn't like a whiner at all, and she apparently looked very much like Henry, with the red hair and red golden hair, and she was ruddy cheeked like him, a bit like Harry.
Well, all her life she was Mary's integrity and her conscience made her do the bad things and the good things in her life.
Yeah, and I think Henry doted on her in the beginning because he thought son, and as that kind of waned, I think as soon as he broke up with her mother, that was really the beginning of she kind of fell out of favor.
Yeah, she fell out of favor big time. And she was only, seen her mother one time in 5 years and didn't even go to the wake. And not only fell out of favor, she was threatened by household tutors. Anne Boleyn was very mean to her. Right. I believe one of Henry's, one of the people that was in charge of her household and stuff was always told and reminded her to call her a bastard and all that stuff. So she had some real rough years.
Yeah,
that's her mother.
That's her mother and father, Henry and Catherine.
And they had a great marriage for, like I said, 16 years. But as soon as Anne came in, Mary's life totally changed.
Yeah,
totally changed.
And Mary hated her, and Anne didn't like her either. You
And
know,
not only that, and the main thing is the marriage of the divorce. She wouldn't sign the papers that her father wanted her to sign.
right?
She wouldn't even sign that her father was the head of the Church of England. That almost got her killed. Mary was about to be brought up on treason trials. A lot of
Yeah,
people don't realize that.
yeah, and he would have killed her too. You know,
I think he would have, but then on again, someone killing their own daughter. But but Henry is a different beast. So I don't think any other monarch would do it. But Henry is a
yeah.
different sort of beast. So yeah, he may have had Mary
Well,
killed.
I think he definitely would because it was a complete embarrassment to him
Well,
that she,
good point. Not only that, all the Catholics would have rallied around her, and that wouldn't have been good neither. So yeah,
yeah, it
good
wouldn't have
point.
been good for him, but he would have gone through with it simply because, I mean, when you look at what was his name, Sir Thomas More, I
Yeah.
mean, nobody was closer to Henry, you know, but he wouldn't sign, and Henry, you know, had him executed, but if that killed Henry, but I
He
think,
did love well, Moore was one of his very first tutors, and then Wolsey
right,
came in also. So
yeah,
they were very close. And if
yeah,
he
he
could
was
kill
like a
him
father,
and
yeah.
kill his ex-wife, I think
Hmm.
because he basically killed Catherine, let's face it, putting her
Yeah,
in these dingy castles with no
yeah,
servants
I
and
know. Oh my
not letting
God.
her see Mary for all them years. That's another thing that drove Mary for revenge because remember, Thomas Cranmer, the Archbishop, he
Yeah,
is the one who propped up the divorce and all that. She never forgave him. And
right.
her vengeance came all the way to the end with Cranmer.
Oh yeah, yeah. And in a way, you can't blame her because when her mother was dying, he wouldn't let her see her.
Oh, he wouldn't let her
No,
see it? Nothing. No,
no,
he was all about making Mary look bad and suppressing Mary and making Mary lose favor in court, especially with Henry.
right, exactly. So, you know, she had reason for Kramer. I think I might have gone after him too. You know.
Oh yes, I would have too. But see, the thing with Kramer at the end, we'll get to that later.
Mm,
It was a no. The Archbishop Kramer was sentenced to burn, right? And
right,
now what he did is he recanted and said, "No, I'm not a Protestant. I don't believe in that." But
right.
Mary's vengeance got a hold of her so bad, where she said, "You know what? I don't care if he recanted. Still burn him." And they said he's also going to make a speech, right? So
Right.
instead of him going up and giving the speech they want him to give, he said he denounced it all, said they made me do it, the whole nine. So Mary's guys rip him off the scaffold real quick, and then they burn him. And when they burnt him, you know what
Yeah.
he did? He stuck his hand out into the flames, the hand that signed that. And
Oh,
it was a
oh,
political and propaganda backfire because at first, when Cranmer went back on his word, it was a huge political win for the Catholics,
right,
propaganda wise. But
right.
letting him up on that scaffold,
Yeah.
was Mary's big undoing right there when it comes to that right there.
Oh my God.
But I jumped
Yeah.
ahead a little, but still.
Yeah. It's okay. So, her father dies, and Edward, who was sickly, uh, most of the time actually, became king. And what's interesting about that, you know, you had Edward, you had Elizabeth, and Mary. Now, you know, I know that they had different mothers and whatever, but their beliefs as far as religion were very like staunch. You know, Edward was,
Yes.
you
A
know,
radical Protestant.
yeah, and so was Elizabeth. You know, and it's kind of funny that, you know, they're all siblings, but their belief system was so different. But I think that had mainly to do with Catherine. You know, she instilled that in Mary.
Yes, and at the
Yeah.
time, England was a Catholic country at that point.
Right. And so Edward now, he was an evil little git too. You know, he was, even though he was sickly, you know, he didn't want her to succeed him because he was afraid that, you know, they were going to turn the country back, you know, go back to Catholicism and be under the influence of Rome, you know, even though Mary remained faithful to.
Yeah, well, real quick, yes. Well, as you're speaking about that, you know, Edward, and I believe it was, what was it? The year, I forget the year, 1549, Edward declaimed where no Catholics could go to Mass, but Mary kept going to Mass and going to Mass. And
Yes.
some of the advisors almost wanted to kill her, but then he stepped back and said, only Mary can do her Mass in private. That's
Well, what she did, she appealed to her cousin, the Emperor Charles V.
Yeah, Charles.
To apply for like diplomatic pressure, demanding, that she be allowed to practice her religion. And so for most of Edward's reign, Mary didn't, she barely went to court. They were talking about at one point smuggling her out of England.
Yes, that's right. The Spanish came, and actually it was called the Graveyards Meeting. They met in a graveyard very late, and they tried to get Mary to go. Mary was half on board, half not, and then she decided no at the end.
Right. I mean, and Edward at this time, he was 13.
Yes.
And so it's like odd for a 13-year-old to be so, but I guess that's
that was his counselors. His counselors were radical they were Protestants, and the counselors, whoever's around you when you're young, your influences. So that's why he was such all the tutors, all the Tudor kids were just like radical religious people, 100%.
Right. And the thing was, it embarrassed him, because she refused to his demands, and he refused to drop the demands. So they were at odds basically his whole reign, and she's lucky that he didn't kill her.
She did get lucky.
Yeah, he didn't want her to succeed him. So that's where Lady Jane Grey came in.
Sad story.
Her in the throne. Because he didn't want obviously
Jane real quick. Jane was actually Edward's first cousin. It was Henry VIII's sister Margaret's daughter, Jane.
Right.
And so they wanted her to become queen because she had royal blood. Obviously, she didn't want to become queen. Her father and the counselors forced that upon her, and she's known as forever the queen for 7 days.
Right, and the thing was, because he didn't want the crown to go to Mary, the advisors actually told him that, he couldn't disinherit one sister and not the other one, Elizabeth. And what he did in his will, he excluded both of them from the line of succession. That's what he wrote in his will, and that's where, Lady Jane Grey came into play. But, obviously that didn't last. I think it was 7 days, was it?
Yeah, 7 days. And then Mary literally marched into London with 15,000 men.
Yes, she did. And I think, I think it was sad what happened to Lady Jane. But
yes,
from Mary's perspective, she didn't want her around because some people thought, she was the rightful queen, but no, Edward did that.
Yes, and if you left Jane alive, that all that is a standard for which your enemies to gather around. And as we know, there was an uprising during Mary's reign that we'll talk about Thomas Wyatt and them. But yeah, Jane had to put Jane to death, sadly, because if she kept her alive, there would be all conspiracies trying to free her and fight for her.
Yeah. So that's Edward, and this is Lady Jane Grey.
Pretty.
Yeah. So what happened then? Oh, so Mary becomes queen, and basically,
first, like you said, she marched into London with 15,000 soldiers at her back, and the people were cheering her on. They loved it, and then she became queen in 1554.
Yeah, and she, Elizabeth accompanied her in that procession. And they said there was over 800 nobles, and gentlemen, that marched into London. So, at this point, I mean, she's 37, which is kind of old for a queen, or royalty. She should have been married maybe years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And actually, they called Mary,
virgin.
Not only was she a virgin, but they said she was miserable. They called her the miserable queen. But I think part of that was because she couldn't have a child. She desperately wanted a child and couldn't do it. So I think
Well,
that,
she didn't she marry Charles the Emperor's son, Philip? She married Philip.
yeah, she married Philip of Spain, and they didn't want. Well, part of them didn't want her to marry him.
No, because think about it. Then you got a Spanish king, and you're being ruled by Spain. Yet they didn't want that at all. And there was like a lot of like sort of an uprising where Mary had to go give this tremendous speech
Yes,
to win the people over.
yeah, she was adamant that she was going to marry him. In fact, she loved him.
Yes, she did.
She really did love him, and she was marrying him come hell or high water, but they really didn't. What happened? She went to Parliament, to actually discuss the marriage, because back then Parliament kind of more so than they do now, they had a lot of influence and a lot of say, and she said if Parliament disagreed, she wouldn't pursue the marriage. But
she gave a great speech where she won them over. That speech that you're talking about, she won them over, and they did let her, and she did marry Philip.
Right? Yes, she did. And,
but no children came of it. So.
No, and a lot of that was because he was never there. He was out of the country.
Well, I believe he was when he first went there, he only stayed for a couple of months, and then he left forever. Then came back within 4 years. They might have spent maybe 8 months together.
Right, exactly.
4 years.
Yeah. So that was one thing. That was one side to it. But what happened with Mary, and it's kind of interesting because the Henry VIII kind of had the same problem, and her mother had many, many miscarriages. But what happened with Mary was she thought she was pregnant, and she thought that the baby was coming in May. It was supposed to arrive in May. So what used to happen back then, and thank God they did away with that. I couldn't imagine that, so the baby's due in May. So in April, they put you into confinement, and what that means, you don't really see anyone. You're in your rooms, because they never know when the baby's coming. But you could be in there for freaking ever, you know what I mean?
They don't want you stressed out or anything like that. So you're locked away.
Right. Yeah, literally. And I just thought, oh my God, imagine that, and what happened is that there was no baby, even her father-in-law, the Emperor Charles, he was reporting a pregnancy and, etc. And she really, really thought she was pregnant. And it's believed, well, what they say is, and this still happens now, and it's still not understood. It's still not completely understood. They believe that she suffered from pseudocyesis, which is called a phantom pregnancy. Where, what they believe is that the woman, and it still happens to this day, women that really, really, really want a baby, and the body tricks itself into thinking that they're pregnant. Like, you don't get your menstrual, your belly grows big. You can go 9 months. Some people have gone 9 months, and I believe Mary actually did, and no baby, and that was like a bummer for her,
Yeah, because her whole thing was producing an heir and having a baby. She wanted to be a mother, and she was very old too. Some say she may have had, and someone in the Pasha said, ovarian cancer. I've heard that, or maybe some disease that was going around back then.
That's a symptom. If you look at the symptoms of Mary, they're very similar to ovarian cancer, and they think that that's what happened. At the end, that's what she died of, because that's what she actually had all along. And so, they say 22,000 pregnancies turn out to be phantom or false.
Wow,
and
really?
Queen Mary I was one of those stats, And they also believe it to be like a mental illness, that's a mental thing.
Well, if you notice, after Mary, she realized the baby wasn't coming, she started getting really vicious with, like I said, over 300, 400 people were burnt at the stake. And there was a man who wrote this book by the name of John Fox.
Right.
It's called The Book of Martyrs, and
Uh-huh.
it's a total anti-Mary book, obviously.
Yeah.
And he was a Protestant. He wrote this book and explained all these people, from this guy named John Leaf to Elizabeth Cooper, a whole bunch of these people executed, and and the people that he put in the book were very staunch in their belief, where they didn't waver, they didn't cry. And a lot of times during the executions during Mary's time, a lot of people would put gunpowder under the neck for sympathy, be very sympathetic towards these people getting burnt, and it would blow up and kill them quick.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, can you imagine?
Oh, my pain. Feeling your limbs burn and
oh God. Yeah. But Mary, she had at least 2 of these phantom pregnancies, at least 2. And at one point, because she didn't want Elizabeth succeeding her, because it was her that didn't want Elizabeth.
Yeah, no, she did not want Elizabeth to succeed her, because you got to remember, at this time, the country, England's biggest problem is Catholic versus Protestant. Right. And we need a monarch that, if you're a Protestant, you want a Protestant monarch, and vice versa.
Right. And so she badly wanted this child, to succeed her. And what was suggested at the time, and I'm really, really surprised that she didn't do it, is they were going to, when the second phantom pregnancy, she was confined again. And they were going to get a baby from, wherever, a newborn, and bring it in and pass it off as hers.
Well, I'm surprised she didn't. Well, that goes back to Mary's integrity and her conscience. Yeah, that goes right back to her, because a lot of monarchs would do that. But the reason she decided probably against that is because her conscience wouldn't allow that, probably.
Yeah, because she really, really did not want Elizabeth to succeed. I mean, she didn't have a choice in the end, and she kind of let it be. But
what happened was, she actually had, Elizabeth went through Traitors' Gate. There was so many, because I see how I talked about the Thomas Wyatt. Thomas Wyatt was a courtsman and stuff. It was friends with Anne Boleyn. Thomas Wyatt led a rebellion against Mary.
Yeah, he was the Duke of Suffolk.
Yes. Yeah. 3,000 men marched with him to London, but the gates were shut. He was arrested, and he was put to death.
Yeah, and they blamed Elizabeth, but she protested her innocence in that.
And I believe her, because listen, there must have been hundreds of conspiracies popping up, and they're going to use her because she's the standard to fight around. So she probably didn't know about none of it, or maybe she did know about a little bit of it. Who knows? But I don't think she really conspired. I don't think so.
Right. And so they put her in the Tower of London for 2 months, and then she was put under house arrest at Woodstock Palace for the rest of that time, and
there was a warrant drawn up for her death, but once again, Mary's conscience couldn't kill a sister, couldn't kill her own sister, even though she hated her. She didn't like her. They had some good times when they were young, don't get me wrong, but she did not like. Catholicism was everything to Mary, everything. She wanted the country to pass to a Catholic monarch, but she could not kill her own sister. Her conscience wouldn't allow that. So Mary had even that. She just was like a lose-lose situation right there.
Right. And so, eventually Elizabeth is let out and whatever. But because there were no children, Philip was concerned that, the next claimant really to the throne was Mary, Queen of Scots, and she was betrothed to the Dauphin of France, and he didn't like that idea at all. And he wanted Elizabeth to marry his cousin, the Duke of Savoy, to secure the Catholic succession.
Yeah.
But Elizabeth wasn't having that. Elizabeth was very headstrong.
Very headstrong, staunch Protestant also.
Yeah, she would not marry that guy, and so it didn't happen. you know. But yeah, Mary. You know, it's a shame for her, but it's kind of funny how
We
they're
got a
done.
couple of super chats. I don't know if you've seen them.
I'm sorry, I
Teresa
wasn't. Let
and
me go in the
John.
chat. Hang on, I'm sorry. Hang on.
But yeah,
Oh
that's where
yeah,
you get the name Bloody Mary from. It
yeah.
comes from this one, Mary Tudor. Bloody Mary.
Thank you, John Smith. Yeah, let me. I'm sorry, I wasn't in the chat. I was in there because I was trying to put pictures up of them.
Yeah, those
Um,
pictures are pretty cool. I like how you do that.
yeah,
And there's Mary right there.
yeah, that was her later, and she looks like a bit of a dragon there, don't she?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I wouldn't want to mess with her.
The other picture was she was pretty, you know, and then
In her younger years, yes, but she does look like a dragon lady
yeah,
right there for sure.
oh God, yeah,
And like I wanted to touch on the Cranmer stuff. Like Cranmer was
yeah,
one of the main protagonists and stuff for the divorce, helping the divorce. She wanted that revenge against him so bad, where this man actually recanted and became a Catholic again just to live and survive. And
right,
she still put him to death, and it backfired because, like I said, it was a huge propaganda win for the biggest Protestant in the country, right? The biggest
yeah.
one in the country to
Thank you,
renounce.
Teresa. Yeah, thank you so much, Teresa. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Rick.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
To denounce Catholicism, to denounce Protestantism and join the Catholics again, she should have just let him live. But no, she wanted to kill him. So he realized,
yeah,
all right, you're going to kill me anyways. I'm going to go up there and give the real speech because they drew up a speech for him. But he
right,
started going off. Like I said, he told everybody that it was done under torture.
yeah.
Mary's bad. He even called the Pope an Antichrist.
Oh, he did.
Yeah,
Oh
and
my
they
God.
ripped him off that scaffold, and they must have beat him all the way back to the tower. Obviously, beat the crap out of him,
Yeah,
and then they executed him. And when they did, like I said, he stuck the handout that he signed that with to burn first, and
right.
his
Wow.
death was a political disaster and a huge propaganda win for the Protestants.
Yeah, yeah. I just wonder what Wyatt was thinking about. You know, I mean, oh my
Oh,
God. You know,
well, he was. You got to think Wyatt's another staunch Protestant. Did not want Mary, and there wasn't that many men in the city at the time that they could
right.
have thought be loyal. So he thought that he could have took London. You know, I think he marched from Kent. It was with
Yeah,
3,000 men, and if
right.
they struck hard and struck fast, it could have probably worked. But they Mary and her men closed the gates, and Wyatt got the rest surrendered. Wyatt surrendered, and Wyatt was killed also.
Right, yeah. So basically then so most of her marriage, I mean, Philip was in Spain and then he became king over there. So
Is it
that
true
was
that, like, I've always heard, you know, I mean, that he wasn't too fond of her, but she was in love with him. But I think a couple of his good buddies wrote that something about his wife is very religious and great, but not a looker, or something to that extent. There wasn't
right,
too many. His friends didn't say any pleasant things about her, even though
right,
he's never said nothing. So it's always to believe that he wasn't attracted or too fond of her.
right. Yeah. I think she was more in love with him than he was with her, you know, and I mean they were apart for years. I
Do you
mean it
think
was
that has a lot to do with Mary just being in love with the idea of marriage and everything, being so traditional that, like, because how much of affection and stuff could he have given her? They didn't spend much time together, you know? Oh, you got another super chat. Can you hear me? I think we lost Josie for a second, but John Smith, thank you. Can MRE wear his metal hood and swing a sword on stream? Not this stream. But like I said, Mary Tudor, if you can hear me, press 1 in the chat, but I don't hear Josie. But Mary Tudor was, like I said, she was a person of convictions. She had integrity. She had a conscience. She did a lot of bad things. Burnt a lot of people. Oh, thanks, guys. I see the ones. She burnt over 400 people at the stake over religious stuff. That's how she got the name Bloody Mary. That's not really that good. to do something like that. But those were the times, and it was Catholic versus Protestant. Very sad that people have to kill each other over religion back then. It still goes on today, though. But she desperately wanted to leave a Catholic heir. But since there was no heir, Philip didn't spend much time with her, and she couldn't get pregnant. And like Josie explained, she always thought she was pregnant. And I believe the last time, I think they thought it was a tumor, or she had a tumor or something. So most likely it was ovarian cancer that killed Mary, I would say. There was a sickness going through London that year, but most of the signs point to ovarian cancer. But she had a real mean streak, and like I said, with the Archbishop Cranmer, she had a lifelong thing for vengeance. You got to think, when she was a little girl, she up until she was 16 years old, she had the world by the you know what. Everybody adored her. Then all of a sudden, Dad divorces Mom, and you're treated like a peasant. You're treated very badly. That gave Mary a hatred in her, a thing for revenge. And like with Cranmer, that revenge came to bite her in the end, big time. But like I said, if Mary would have lived a little longer, and if she could have had a child, or if she even did what Josie said, went and grabbed a kid or whatever, maybe she could have passed it on to a Catholic monarch.
But okay, I'm sorry about that. I'm back. I don't know what the hell happened.
Yeah, we lost you there.
It keeps doing this. I'm going to have to call them up. It's driving me crazy. Yeah, so where were you? What were you?
We were just talking about just like around the end of Mary's reign and stuff like that with Cranmer and what's his name? Wyatt. Wyatt was a poet also. He was a poet too.
Right.
And her enemies and her wanting and mainly her wanting to have a Catholic succession, meaning the person that succeed her be a Catholic, not a Protestant. Because all the work that she did for all these 4 years, burning all these Protestants at the stake, taking all of Henry's reforms and throwing them out the window and putting everything back. Turning the country Catholic again. Because remember, Henry stripped the altars bare. Henry took everything from the churches.
Right.
He stripped them right down.
Well, I think what made me look, well, it's not funny, but in I think it was 1558, she got weak and ill, and she was in a lot of pain, ovarian cysts and or uterine cancer, and so she died.
Yeah, breaking up a little, Josie. Yeah, she died in 1558. She was queen only 4 years, from 1554 to 1558. You still there, Josie? We broke up for a minute. Grant said we would still be in the dark ages if the Catholics won. Well, you're lucky they didn't, because it almost happened. It could have went either way back then. Well, like, let's just say Mary got pregnant. Let's just say Philip, when they first got married on the night that they took their annulments and they conceived a baby, because she got pregnant, conceived, there would be a Spanish, English king on the throne, and without a doubt would be Catholic. John Smith says, imagine being hanged, drawn, and quartered. Oh my God, decapitated. Those are some vicious, brutal deaths that they went through back there. They would even cut out your intestines and burn them in front of you. Very, very painful deaths. And like we said, what Mary was famous for is Mary used to always say, off with the head, off with the head. Having people's heads chopped off and burning people. The Protestants were burnt. Traitors lost their heads. But the Protestants, she would burn them. They were all called heretics. She would call them heretics and burn them. During this time in English history, from Henry VIII through all of his children, it is nothing but religious war between both sides, Protestant and Catholic.
I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, I'm so sorry about that. If it ends up doing it for a long period, I'll let you finish.
Yeah, no, if something happens, I'm going to roll with it.
Don't worry. I don't know what the hell's going on here, but, I was talking about her, dying, and Philip at the time, he was in Brussels, and when he found out that she was dead, his response was, "I felt a reasonable regret for her death." Well, thanks a lot. I might have to use that one somewhere. I felt a reasonable response for her death. Okay, thank you.
Talking about like oh my god, not even nothing for like couldn't say nothing nice.
No, so it goes to show his thoughts on the marriage.
Well, and showed that he didn't have no love for her at all.
Yeah, not really. To him, it was
it was a duty.
Yeah, here's Mary and Philip.
That's Charles the Emperor's nephew.
Yes, yeah, Philip of Spain,
and Charles had the Habsburg chin.
Oh God! Look at his little legs.
Yeah, look at him. Well, back then, Henry VIII, calves, having big calves back then, were considered very masculine. That's why Henry and all them people in their outfits always show off their calves.
Yeah, and what was interesting as well was when she died, this is the tomb. They had her next to Elizabeth. They had Mary, and when Elizabeth died, they buried them together.
Interesting.
Which was odd. Yeah, that's Mary's tombstone there. Oh, and this is her coat of arms.
Yeah, Mary's coat of arms. Look at that. Look at all the different. See, it represents Portugal, Spain. Yeah. Look at all the different coats. France. Look at all the different coats of arms. Because her mother and father had so many titles. A lot of them are Spanish titles at the bottom.
Right.
Oh, Mom mentioned Cromwell. Oh, yeah. He comes a little later.
Yeah. What happened with him? That was later on with Elizabeth, no?
Yes. Yeah. At this time, Cromwell was an obscure cleric somewhere. Cromwell rose up. I think Wolsey discovered him. I'm not too sure, but Thomas Cromwell.
Yeah, he was a sneaky one too. Wolsey was very sneaky.
Very, very. Wolsey, Bill Dox, Wolsey was very smart. And if you remember, like we talked about last time, during Henry VIII's first few years of his reign, Wolsey was running the country, basically.
Right. Yeah, he was. Yeah. And
Henry was partying.
Right. Yeah, for real. And then, the thing with the success, we were talking about the line of succession before too, it is very important. And, that's why, the only time we've really seen it happen in England was, Edward VIII, when he abdicated to marry one of you ungrateful colonials, divorcee Wallace Simpson. And, that's the only time I've kind of ever seen that.
Yeah.
And, of course, I have nothing to do with the Queen or the Crown, but I don't like that idea of Charles stepping down or, in Edward's case.
See, I have a different, so maybe me because I'm an American and stuff, I have a different, I think it would be better for the monarchy. But anyone I talk from England disagrees with me, or the UK disagrees. I thought it would be good for like a young William and Kate and them to come in, but I guess it would damage the line of succession.
Yeah, no, I think the line of succession has to stay. Charles might be 100 by the time he gets in there, but the Queen's like failing. Her health is going.
How's her health been lately?
It's not been good. It's a jubilee, and she hasn't attended a lot of stuff. Like this time of year, they do the garden parties, where she goes around meeting everybody. But she missed several of those. So they had, what's the name there? Eugenie.
Eugenia, Andrew's daughter.
Yeah, they had her do it, and Edward's wife, Sophie.
Sophia, okay.
Yeah, they had them doing it. And then what they did, they got her like this zooped up golf cart and put her in that and sent her around. So she was around.
How old is she right now?
90, I want to say in the 90s, 98 maybe. And maybe that's too old.
Maybe 95. She's up there in her mid 90s.
Yeah, somewhere around there. She's knocking on. And so her mobility isn't that great anymore, they're saying. And quite honestly, I'm surprised that she's really kind of lasted this long after Philip, because usually when you're together that long, one dies and then the other one's right after him, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, because he passed last year.
Yeah, so I don't see it being very long, unfortunately. But
yeah, it's going to be a huge thing in England because, listen, most of everybody's life they know nothing but Elizabeth.
Yes.
So this is going to be a trying time for the monarchy in England.
Right. Oh yeah. And I wonder how Charles is going.
Oh, she's 90. Sorry, she's 96. Tom Hardy said.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean,
96.
She's knocking on there. Wow. And Charles has been patiently waiting, and I wonder how he would fare as king, because he's knocking on as well. How old is he? Does anybody know?
Oh, he's got to be in his 70s.
Yeah.
He's got to be in his late 70s, mid 70s at least.
Yeah.
He's been waiting. I watched the video when he was crowned at Carnarvon Castle in Wales.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, back then, oh my God, he was a gawky looking thing, wasn't he?
Yes, he was, and he actually had to go to that Welsh school and learn Welsh and everything like that. And the Welsh back then weren't too happy with the English, you know that as well. You had a big Welsh succession party, and they spoke Welsh over there, not English. So Charles had to give this speech in Welsh, and it's not easy to learn Welsh.
Right. Yeah, Tan Brickler says they had to change the royal name to Windsor. It was actually a German last name.
Yes. Saxon Coburg or something?
I
forget.
I don't remember what it was. It
was a German name because they are German descent.
Yeah, Philip was German, no?
He was German and Danish too.
Right.
But he was the Prince of Greece.
Yeah, and their story's very interesting. We'll have to do that one day too.
Yeah, there are all these. Like I've said, my whole life I've always loved the monarchies and stuff like that. And like my father used to read me stories, and then just turned me into total history nut. And I always love this stuff. House of Hanover, the House of Windsor, all of them.
Yeah, and I just think that and so then once Mary dies, then Elizabeth takes the throne, and she ruled for some time. I mean, she
how many years? Basically, when Mary ruled for 4 years, 1554, 1558, and Elizabeth was there for 40-something years.
Yes, that was a long time, for
very long. When Mary was the first queen, there was never Mary was the first queen of England to rule in her right, and Elizabeth the second.
Right. Yeah.
To rule, and so for a woman to rule for 40-something years, Elizabeth was very politically astute. She was no dummy. Neither was Mary. Both of these women were tutored and raised around a lot of people that taught them a lot. They were no dummies. Right,
and she wasn't going to be told. She never married, which was weird too.
Yeah, there was a lot of different betrothals and stuff, though.
Right.
Over the years.
Yeah, but
with Elizabeth.
Yeah, she just wasn't having it.
No, there was.
She had several lovers, but she would never actually marry anybody.
Yeah, she had lovers and stuff like that. What was one? The Duke of Leicester, I believe.
Yeah, and gosh, who was that guy? He's gone out of my head. Right.
Essex,
Yes.
Oh, yeah, yes. He was a hubris little bastard, Essex. Over there.
Yeah.
He betrayed her in the end.
Right, and a lot of them, I think the reason for not marrying is because they thought they would be king.
Well, yes, exactly. A lot of so picture being a queen, picture being Elizabeth or Mary back then, and every man that says they love you or want you, you got to think, do they want me or do they want my crown and my power?
Right, and I think the majority wanted the crown and the power.
Yes,
I do. I think whether that was a right decision of hers not to marry, but she could have had an heir.
Yes, and since she didn't have an heir, she had to give it to, believe it or not, the woman when Elizabeth had Mary Queen of Scots killed, and guess who she passes the crown to? Her son.
Yeah. That is so weird.
Isn't that ironic?
And I don't think she really wanted to kill.
No, she didn't. She cried. She didn't want to do it, but there was so many plots and so many. You got to think there. With Elizabeth, with her cousin Mary Queen of Scots alive, and that, I said earlier that I made a mistake. Jane Grey is not the daughter of Henry VIII's sister. Mary Queen of Scots is the daughter of Henry VIII's sister Margaret.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
No,
and so that's her first cousin, and she had to keep her locked away because of all the Catholic plots and stuff against her. There was a bunch of assassination attempts, the whole nine. Right. But it is ironic that it passed to the woman she killed son, James V of Scotland, I believe.
Yes.
Or I forget the name.
No, I believe it was James.
All right, it was James. I always get James and Charles mixed up.
Yeah.
But Bloody Mary did have a crazy life of ups and downs, without a doubt. But I believe in the end, her lust for revenge, making that mistake with Cranmer, backfired on her. Her wanting for a baby backfired on her, sadly. Because picture what would have happened. All right, let's say when you weren't on here. Just imagine if Philip and her, the night they consummated the marriage, if they had a baby that night. Imagine that. She would have had 4 years to set up things for people to care for that baby after she went. And let's say she lived. All right, let's say Mary lived 10 years. Okay. I know. In them 10 years, and with an heir, with a son, the country might have stayed Catholic, for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because at that time it was like half and half. So whatever monarch grabbed the reins, may it be a Catholic or a Protestant, the country would have went with it.
Right. Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. So Adamus says yes, our civil war happened within this kind of period, not too far away anyway.
Yes. Yep. The English Civil War. Yep.
And the Catholic Church, Grant says the Catholic Church was crooked to the core back then.
There was a lot of crooked, of course there was, but there was a lot of good men also, but a lot of crooked ones, yes.
Right. And he says we would still be in the Dark Ages, Bible in Latin, crooked priests and practices, no education for the poor, no freedom, the Protestants winning, secured freedom for all, not just for Protestants. Yeah, so, and Lloyd Christmas says, death by fire is the purest, for the night is dark.
That's going to Game of Thrones, for the night is dark and full of terrors.
But I think that was the reason they burnt people, wasn't it? That it purified them or something?
Well, yeah, and if it's so funny how Game of Thrones, everything that George R. R. Martin, everything he was obsessed with English history and history his whole life. So everything in that book of Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones, is all them people are modeled after people in history and events in history. So many times I watch it and I pick out, oh my God, Daenerys exiled, Henry VII. So many different things he took and modeled in his book after English and Scottish history, and even the Romans.
Right. And Joe says a lot of people throughout history have been killed in the name of religion.
Even to this day.
I was just about to say that. Not much has changed. Grant says, Bruce City proved me wrong. What's propaganda back then? The Roman Catholic Church was crooked. Only rich kids got an education, and the Bible was in Latin.
Well, I got to say, yes, there were. I'm not going to say the whole church was crooked. That I don't think that's fair. But yes, there was a lot of crooked people in the church, and as on the Protestant side also, you got good and bad in all. But I believe, me as a Catholic, I go to. I only get to Latin Mass maybe once a month because the church that does Latin Mass is a little far from me. But for me personally, I love the Latin Mass.
Yeah, I do. Well, I haven't been in a very long time. Probably a thunderbolt will come in if I had to go to confession.
That's what. No, I wanted to ask you, Josie. Since you're a redcoat and from England, what is your religion?
Roman Catholic.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah. Am I a practicing one? No, but that's what we were raised with. You know, I had communion and all of that. Um,
And does that ever like a bias come in when you watch? Because it does for me when I'm watching these history things and learning about it. Like, do you root for the Catholic or no? Some,
yes. Yes.
sometimes I find myself always rooting for the Catholic, but sometimes no. If they're not good people or nothing,
Right.
sometimes I'll root for the other. But
Yeah.
most of the time, my bias is always going to be there.
Yeah, I do kind of tend to because that's how we were raised with, really. You know, well, when we were with my mother, she would make us go to Sunday mass, and she'd give us sixpence, which is about 25 cents, I think, possibly somewhere around there, because you used to have to put that in the tray, you know, that came around,
Yes. Yep. Yep.
and we'd say, "Oh, we'll go." And then we'll leave and we'll take the sixpence, you know, and go and buy sweets. And,
Sweet.
and
That's what you call them out there, sweets.
yeah. Oh, candy. Sorry, candy. And and the priest used to be watching, and we'd get up and try and leave. He'd come chasing us down the aisle, ranting and raving. You know, those are my memories of that because it was so boring for kids. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
wasn't that she didn't come in. We had to go. You know.
Yeah, when I was a little kid, when I was real little, it was boring for me. But then as I started hitting maybe like 8, 9, it wasn't boring, and I started getting into it and stuff like that.
Right. Bruce City says the United States of America in the 1800s was the first country on earth to create universal public educations 1 through 12. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
See, that's why I love history
Yeah.
streams because there's always no. I hate when people say, "I know everything about history." No, you don't. Like nobody does. That's
No.
why it's so good to talk history with people because things I don't know, people in the chat will teach me. You know. And
Right.
same thing coming on here talking to you, things that I don't know, I learn from you, and vice versa.
Yeah. Grant says for centuries impoverished Protestants were illiterate.
Yeah, that is true. He is right with that
Yes.
thing of the Protestants did help the average person learn to read and write, which if it stood with the Catholic, that wouldn't have happened. But
Right.
that is true.
Yeah, exactly. So let's see. Yeah, I'll drop your links and
But yeah, Mary always fascinated me, honestly. Like even when I was a little kid, we would look in the mirrors, put the light on, and go, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary.
Oh my God, really? Yeah.
Yeah, and I would be like, and they would say, well, this is God's mother. I'm like, no, that's about Mary Tudor.
Right.
And nobody knew who she was. Like they
Wow.
thought it was a Satan thing where it was the Blessed Mother. I was like, no, they're talking about Mary Tudor, Mary the First of England. And like we were little kids, I was into that stuff. I was a nerd into that.
Yeah.
The other little kids are like, who the hell's that? And they didn't really care.
Grant says John Knox, the Protestant reformer, made education available to all, hence why many royals and lords in England were educated in Scotland. Yeah, and that's true.
Very true. Very true.
They always send them off to Scotland. I didn't know that either. I wondered that.
Yeah, that's true.
But they do. Charles was in Scotland.
And look, even the book that I mentioned earlier, John Fox's book, people check that book out, man. The Book of Martyrs, the Book of Martyrs, and it talks about all the people that Mary burned and how the ones that went out, all the ones that went out with dignity and stuff, stood up there. Some cried and screamed. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of them, like I mentioned, that woman Elizabeth Cooper.
Yeah,
she died with pure dignity, and said she would be she loves her Protestantism, and because Protestant really means protest in Latin.
Right.
The Great Schism. This is how it all comes from. The Great Schism with Henry VIII and the marriage with the Anne Boleyn, him breaking from the Catholic Church, the Great Schism, and it drove the country into a religious civil war.
Right. Yeah, I didn't really understand the differences between the two religions, really. But
Well,
when I
good
was in
point.
school, it was a Protestant church we went to, and whatever we used to, when in the first thing we would have assembly, and we would sing hymns and whatever. You know what I mean? But they were all like
Yeah.
Protestant hymns.
See, the great thing about the weird thing about Henry VIII is an anomaly. The crazy thing about him is he was so selfish where he wanted his divorce so bad. He exiled the religion that was his. Henry was not a Protestant like people think. Henry was a Catholic. Henry didn't. The real crazy reforms happened during Edward's short reign. Henry
Right.
was a staunch. Henry actually almost burned a lot of his own people for making these reforms go so fast. All he wanted to do was get the Pope out of there so he could be out of the church, do what he wanted, and he also wanted to strip the abbeys so it could fill his coffers also. But
Right.
at the end of the day, Henry was a Catholic,
Yes.
full and through.
Yes, I believe he was. He just wanted that because he wanted what he wanted. Buffalo Billy says the Queen 19 Savile. Yeah, I mean, back then, a knighthood kind of meant something. Now it doesn't so much. They're knighting the craziest people, you know, real young people.
Really?
Yeah, I don't get it. Who's that
That
fella?
takes away, and when they do that, that takes away the specialness of it.
Who's that racing driver? Is it Lewis? No, what's his name? He's a young black guy, and he's like does Formula One.
I don't know much about race, and I'm
Yeah,
not.
I forget his name, but he's like young, and they knighted him, and I'm like, what? What the hell did he do? He raced, you know.
So yeah, even with Jimmy Savile, like he just put up, uh,
Right.
like why even knight some BBC disc jockey? They didn't know he was a creeper or whatever then, but why even should a disc jockey get that? Like someone should be do something very special, like fighting for their country, saving little children from fires, maybe. I don't know. Like I'm not an Englishman.
Right. So Bruce City says Milwaukee was not built by Scottish Protestants. Milwaukee was an industrial city built Catholics and Lutherans, mostly Catholics. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, but I
Yeah.
do know. The Catholics at one point, were treated pretty badly.
Oh yeah, well that's why And another thing about Mary, great fact right here. The state Maryland is named after Mary the First, right here, Bloody
Right.
Mary, and it
Yeah.
was a Catholic colony. They made it a colony for Catholics because
Right.
all of the colonies obviously were Protestant.
Right.
So what you call it was a colony for Catholics.
Yeah.
Maryland.
Yeah, Gianni says rock stars got knighted, the Beatles, etc. Yeah, they did, and I kind of get that. They got knighted kind of later on when they were older, But this racing guy, I want to say he's in his 20s, and I'm like,
Really?
yeah, I'm like, what? Why are they knighting him?
Yeah, it should be a lifetime achievement thing, over a lifetime.
Right. Well, Mobland said
Lloyd.
Lloyd will be getting knighted soon for services to YouTube. There's hope for us all. Then I might be made a dame. Oh my god!
But a lot of people don't know that about Maryland with Mary that was named. So if anybody lives in Maryland, this is the woman that your state was named after.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that either. Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
Maryland.
Yeah, I see. Like is it New England,
That's
where
where I'm from.
they have a lot of names of what places we have in England.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
many. I am from New
Yeah.
England, and yeah, this was the English came here. The first colonists, they were English for many years. Even during the Revolution, they still looked at themselves as English. They were.
Oh,
That's
really?
why Paul Revere, he never said the British are coming, the British are coming, because they thought of themselves as British.
Oh, wow.
I
Okay.
believed he was yelling the redcoats are coming or the lobster backs, one of the other.
Right. Rat Trap City said, I would lose the title the moment someone asked me to bow to them. I'd laugh and walk away. No thanks.
And
No,
another,
but
do you know why the British soldiers? Oh, sorry to cut you off.
go ahead.
Do you know why the British soldiers wore red in on their uniforms? A lot
No,
of people
yeah.
got a big misconception. A lot of people think, and I thought this at one point, that it was in case they got shot, nobody could see the blood. It was no, it's because red was the cheapest material you could get at that time. So that's why they went with red.
Right. Wow. I didn't know that either.
Yeah, because I always thought, oh, it's because, if you get shot in the battlefield, all the other troops don't see the blood everywhere on them. But no, it's not. It was because it was the cheapest for them to get at that time in that period.
Yeah, Tan says, come on, you got to hand it to us Brits. We owned half the world. Not bad for a little
100%. Listen, the British people are a highly intelligent, great people that had a little island nation and ruled half of the world, just like Spain did also. That's another reason why Mary was born, because Henry's father, Henry VII, wanted a Spanish marriage because Spain had a lot of power. They were the only ones at the time who occupied land in the New World. Yeah. And that's when, after Elizabeth, during Elizabeth's reign, I think she sent a few expeditions, Walter Raleigh and stuff like that.
Yes.
And Virginia, the Virgin Queen. That's what Virginia's named after, the Virgin Queen in America also. So 2 states are named after Henry VIII's daughters.
Right.
In America.
Oh, really?
Yeah, interesting, ain't it?
Yeah. What states?
Maryland for Mary.
Yeah.
And Virginia for Elizabeth, the Virgin Queen. Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't think she was a virgin, though.
No. She wasn't a virgin, but the Virgin Queen, meaning she never married.
Oh, okay, yeah, because I think that's a wicked lie they like to tell. But
well, that's just a big misconception where people just think it's just a nickname. Obviously, they knew she wasn't a virgin. Even at that time, they knew she had lovers and stuff.
Right,
and, that's just a big misconception a lot of people have.
Right. All the money could do. Okay, well, so who we're going to do next time?
You know what? In a few weeks, I don't know if we maybe cover Elizabeth. Probably just go with the Tudors right now and cover Elizabeth maybe next.
Yeah. Go down the line.
Yeah, then down the line think of some other because I like doing history streams and stuff. And I did I did upload the Henry VIII stream to my channel today.
Yeah.
Because I wait like about a few weeks so people can come here and watch it, and then I upload the history stream on mine. Right.
Oh, Lloyd said, I'll just read this right quick. Everyone gets knighted, so no one's feelings get hurt. Yeah, but I just think it really takes away from what it's meant to be, Yes. I don't know. Maybe I'm just old-fashioned with it, but
No, I agree with you. I think it takes away from the prestige of it, the mystique of it. If you just give it to anybody, it won't become important no more. Desired.
Yeah. And what I'd like to cover as well down the road, maybe, is the Civil War and the troubles in Ireland.
Yeah, the troubles in Ireland, the Civil War, all that stuff I know about and very interested in also. Yeah, we could do more history stuff in the future for sure because I'm a history fanatic, and I always tell other people if they ever want to do any history stuff, let me know.
Yeah, Zia Lessa, you're a very naughty man. He said, I love English muffins.
He's crazy. How you doing, Zio? And hi, everybody in the chat. And thank you for supporting the stream and everything.
Yeah. Thank you all.
And I want to thank you for having me on, Josie.
Oh, no, you're more than welcome.
Doing the history stuff.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. I like doing it. All right, then. So we've been on an hour. I think an hour.
Yeah, an hour or 3. You never really want to go over too much longer than this. No. But all right, I'm going to go. I want to say thank you. I'll let you say your goodbyes, but I want to say thank you and God bless everybody in the chat too.
Yeah, thank you all for coming and listening. Thank you. Bye-bye. Oh, hold on. We should talk about the Dolphin Prince, Lee, Boo. I know all that stuff. Okay. I'll just read a couple more. Be easy, everyone. Yeah, take care. Hi, Carlos, Rat Trap, everybody. I'm sorry if I missed people, but thank you for the super chats. And we'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.